Folks, welcome back. It's probably about time to start discussing this ineligibility. What makes you ineligible? I've covered this over the past year, but for some reason, some people simply don't listen. Others are new. They miss things repeatedly. So what I'm going to do is break down in small videos things that make you ineligible, potentially. All right. So one of the first things that makes you ineligible is if you're not in South Africa. I've said this. If you're not here, you can't apply for the program. If you have safe haven passports, you cannot apply for the program. Unless, of course, you have a family member who is a primary applicant who doesn't have a safe haven passport, like the Stolze family. And here's another one. When this thing started, people came to me and said, "Oh, Colonel, I've got to get out. I've been robbed. I've been shot. I've been stabbed. And this assault happened." And I said, "That's horrible. And I'm sorry to hear that. But that doesn't make you a refugee. Being a victim of crime is not a basis for refugee status, just like white genocide is not a basis for refugee status. Being a victim of persecution is, or potential victim." And I think this is where maybe a lot of these people are falling short. You know, we've got these idiots that run off to little groups and complain and lie and say, "Oh, the Colonel said we're all criminals and liars." I didn't even bring up criminality. I did talk about lying, though, last year. It wasn't until after I came to South Africa last year and people approached me who had criminal records and asked me what their chances are. And I said, well, if you have a criminal record, it depends what the crime is. But, when June 30th hit and the first round of ineligibility letters went out, we got these people running off the groups lying about me, saying, "Look, Colonel said we're criminals and liars." I didn't say that. I said it makes you ineligible. And I said most people know why they're ineligible. But there is something here that I've touched on last year repeatedly and not recently, and I've been thinking about it after having several meet and greets here in the Western Cape over the past few days. It seems evident to me that some people don't get this whole process. They continue to think that this is an immigration program. It's not an immigration program. And and I guess this is because people listen to the media and don't listen to people who know what they're talking about, like me, and perhaps Professor G. You must be a victim of persecution. And this program is not for white farmers. It's not for Boers. It's not for Afrikaners. And I think a lot of people, based on what I've been hearing and talking to folks, think that because they're an Afrikaner, that means they're qualified. It does not. Johan Rupert is not qualified. He's not a victim of persecution. He can't go anywhere. You must be an Afrikaner ethnicity or a racial minority living in South Africa. And you must be able to articulate, explain past persecution based on race or politics, political, or a legitimate, genuine fear of future persecution. That's the basis. I strongly suspect that a lot of people getting ineligibility letters simply assumed all they had to do was tell how they were victims of crime or say that they're Afrikaners. Well, if that's all you did, you're not eligible. And unfortunately, you've screwed the pooch. Most likely because you didn't listen to me. Perhaps you listened to someone else, or you simply didn't pay attention, and now you're scratching your head after the fact. A warning to those who are going to do interviews with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. You must articulate a reason. The reason must be based on racial persecution, either in the past or genuine fear of future persecution. Being a victim of crime is not a basis for refugee. I've told you this a million times. Being a victim of crime that has occurred because of racial animus, well, that's different. Like lynching black men in the Deep South or lynching Jews in the Deep South who were supporting black people. That's racial animus. That is persecution based on race. But being robbed, being stabbed, being shot, that's horrible, but it's not enough to get you through the wire. All right? Now, this is one of a few things. I'm going to talk another one about potential fraud. And I'm talking about people who didn't commit fraud, who could wind up being ineligible. But that'll be coming up in a future video. But for now, this is the first one. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing people say that I told you you're all criminals and liars. I never said that. That's what you inferred incorrectly because you don't listen. Yalla, luister, mense, luister. Ik praat Engels, maar es is klaar. Easy to understand, okay? Now, there's going to be a few people's feelings hurt because I just spoke terrible Afrikaans. Get over yourself. You must listen, articulate. And I suspect a lot of these ineligibility letters, people are perfectly fine otherwise, but they failed to get the point across that they're victims of racial animus and racial persecution. What say you, South Africa? Zanzi. Cheers.